You're listening to the Wedding Procast UK, the place to be if you are a UK wedding professional looking to grow and streamline your business. I'm your host, Donna Eade, 10-year wedding photography veteran and CEO at the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors. If you want to grow and streamline your business, this is the podcast for you. Make sure you hit subscribe where you listen or join our email list at www.spwv.co.uk. You'll find the sign up form at the bottom of every episode, and by doing so you won't miss a thing. So let's jump into today's show. Before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know that the early bird bonuses for joining the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors end tonight at midnight, 30th of September. So if you haven't joined yet, get your slot booked in right now. You can head to the website www.spwv.co.uk and join today. For the first 10 people who join, they will receive a copy of the book Passion to Purpose by Amy McLaren. Every member will also get access to Welcome Week, which starts on the 4th of October. Every new member will also get access to a 30-minute coaching call with me, and every member will also get access to the social media structure workshop. All of that is valued at over £150 and is available only until midnight tonight, the 30th of September. So head over to the website www.spwv.co.uk and hit the join button. I hope to see you on the inside soon. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. So happy to have you here today. We have a guest with us today. We have Vicki Richmond, and she is a wedding planner, and she is going to tell us all about wedding planning and why you might want to become a wedding planner. So we're going to jump into that today. Welcome, Vicki. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Donna. Thank you for having me.
So introduce yourself to the listeners. Let them know who you are, what it is you do, and a little bit about your background.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Vicki, your wedding friend. I am the crafty wedding planner, so I primarily help DIY couples plan perfect wedding days. So helping them bring together all the bits and pieces that they've been making over the months and possibly years leading up to their weddings, and making them all look fabulous in their venues. And absolutely love working on weddings. Such good fun working with creative, crafty people like me.
And I love that, because that is a little bit of a difference. That's your unique selling point, that you actually deal with brides that tend to have lower budgets and possibly would think that a wedding planner was not something that was in their budget, and that they're doing all of these things. They're making the bunting, they're creating their own centerpieces, possibly even making their own dress. Oh, crazy people like that. And these people that are trying to, not even necessarily that they haven't got the money to spend on it, but they know where they want to spend their money, and the rest of it is fun for them. They actually enjoy making and creating and wanting to do a DIY wedding.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest misnomers about DIY couples, is that a lot of the other suppliers think these couples don't have best budgets, but they do. It's just that they're very canny about where they want to spend that budget. So they're making some of the things so that they can afford the most fantastic photographer, or so that they can add the videographer, or whatever else it is that they really want to do. But also because they want to feel like they're actually involved in their wedding day. They don't want to palm everything off onto other people and then hope that everything pulls itself together. That gives them some control. And I've worked with people that have had budgets in the region of £35,000, but I've also worked with people that have had budgets less than £1,000. But they've still managed to afford me because of what I can offer them, what I bring to them is important to them. So it can be that it's about releasing the anxiety of worrying if everything's going to be set up the way what they really want it to be on the day, especially if it's on the day setups, because you want to be focusing on getting ready, and you don't want to be faffing about and making sure that that jam jar full of flowers is put in that location that you really want it to go in, and that sign is up, you know, the welcome sign is at the entrance instead of some random place that the venue decide to put it up at. So that, yeah, so anybody can afford my help. It doesn't have to cost thousands.
Yeah,
depends on what they need.
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember an instance of when I was coordinating at the hotel, and we had a bride that was doing a lot of DIY stuff, and she had actually bought chair covers and sashes, which I always think is like crazy. Why would you do that? Because you're not going to use them afterwards. But she had her bridesmaids setting the room up in the morning, because as a company, we didn't do chair covers. You know, we had style companies that came in and did that kind of thing, and usually that's what the brides would do. They would hire them. So we wouldn't, that wasn't part of the hotel service to put on chair covers. And they had like 100 guests. They were in our bigger room, and 100 chair covers and sashes, and the bridesmaids were all doing it. So rather than being upstairs with the bride getting ready and enjoying the morning, they were all, you know, one had their hair done, one didn't have their hair done, and they were all sweating like anything trying to get all these chair covers on in time. And if you are not used to putting on chair covers and doing sashes, I mean, the bows were, well, we won't talk about the bows, but yeah, just,
it's a proper
just
workout.
insane.
It takes a lot longer than people think to do a chair cover. Even, you know, the first one takes a good 5 minutes, because you've got to figure out which way around to put it on, how the feet hook in and everything. But yeah, once you've done 100 of them, you know about it. For sure. So why did you get started in your business? What was it that propelled you to become a wedding planner? Well, I was working at venues. I have an arts background, so I was working at an arts centre as an administration officer, and looking after hires and things, and it occasionally included the occasional, you know, birthday party or wedding reception or something like that. And then I joined this central team that I was put in charge of, and management decided that we have these lovely venues that make up our pool of resources, and perhaps we should introduce a wedding service. Having never set up a wedding service for a venue in my entire life, I learned very quickly how to do that and what I would need. Unfortunately, because of my stage management background, I knew about getting people on board, you know, bringing in all the people that so that I didn't have to do everything myself.
Yeah.
So I was doing all of that. And looking out and researching different suppliers and working out who would fit our style of venue before we even launched it, and then completely changed the style because realised that looking at various other venues and things. And I really, really loved doing all of that. And it all kind of came to a head after about 4 years of doing it, where I was sort of advising people in ways that venue coordinators shouldn't advise people, in terms of perhaps offering venues that weren't my own as an idea for them. So there's a lot of focus in venues for you to try and make as much money for the venue as possible. You know, you're there as a coordinator, primarily really to look after that venue and make sure that everything runs smoothly on the day, which is fantastic. I love venue coordinators. Having been one, I completely sympathise with them. But also when I'm a coordinator wanting to say, go to this venue because I think actually it'll suit your needs better, I'm really not coordinating material, and I'd be much better working for myself. So, and the decision was made good 4 years ago now, and I just took the leap. I thought, well, I've got my wedding season for my venue. I saw that all the way through, saw the opportunity, and just leapt for it. So you can say I sort of fell into weddings, but I've been sort of wedding adjacent for a very long time and love working on them. And just, decided to go out on my own and offer all the advice about all the different things, and not getting stuck having to say, please buy canopies from us because, you know, we really need to make more money off you.
Do you know what? That's so funny that you say that that was the reason that you went out on your own, that because you were offering other venues that weren't part of your pool of venues to people, you were just like, this isn't, because I did exactly the same thing in photography. Not that I would recommend other photographers, but I would always say, you know, there is a photographer out there for you. I might not be it, but if you go to another photographer, make sure you ask this, make sure you ask that, make sure you get this information, because I wanted them to have the right photographer for them. And I often thought, maybe I should be in wedding planning, not in actual photography, because I'm not comfortable selling myself as a photographer. And I wasn't, you know, I didn't want them to settle. I didn't want them to go, okay, that's the one we can afford, we'll go with that. You know, I wanted to make sure that they had the best that they could afford. And obviously they don't know every single wedding photographer and what they offer, and they haven't got the time to go and visit with every single wedding photographer. So I completely sympathize with what you were feeling there, because I did exactly the same thing when I was doing photography. And yeah, I had the same thing when I was coordinating, that, you know, the boss was there going, have they had canapes? Are they having, you know, 3 courses or 4? Are they having drinks reception? Are they having this? You know, and it was constantly all of these things that you were looking at. And I think for us, we were a lower end venue anyway. Price wise, we were very reasonable, and we had the ability to do small 12-person weddings, which were really cheap, and the bigger weddings seating up to 80 people, but we were kind of that lower end. I wouldn't say bottom, we weren't a community hall. I see those as being like the cheapest of the cheap options for wedding venues, but we were on that lower end. So I never sort of felt that people that were coming to us would necessarily have a better option elsewhere. And I loved weddings, so I just wanted to do them all. I was just like, yes, come, and because I want to be at your wedding. I just loved being there.
I had so many weddings that I really wanted to be part of, but and for us, similarly, we had a very small capacity. So if someone came saying that they wanted 200 people, it's like, well, our only option is a marquee. And like, oh no, we don't want a marquee. It's like, well, the long and short of it is we're not the right venue for you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And but I think couples appreciate it more when we're able to be honest with them. And actually, what I've found especially is if I say, well, this person might be able to do the job that you need it, then they come back to me because they look into it and they trust the advice that I've given them because it's proved to be true. Or so people would generally find their way back anyway if we're the right match for each other, and that's the key. If we both want it to be a fantastic wedding day, then we'll make it work.
Yeah. I love that, and I love the fact that you've kind of sort of covered there why the wedding industry, and I can see it in your face as we're talking about it. It's the same face that I pull when I'm talking about weddings. Your face just lights up, and it's just such a happy occasion. And I think most people that work in the wedding industry are in it for these reasons, because we just want to make people happy, we want to see them happy, we want to make sure that they're getting what they deserve on their wedding day. Obviously there are the scoundrels out there that aren't in it for the right reasons. We will probably touch on that a little bit later, but moving on to obviously you've had this experience of doing the coordination first and setting this up for venues, and then you stepped out on your own. With the years of experience that you've had, what do you think makes a good wedding planner?
You have to be organised. There's no two ways about it. If you're not the kind of person that organises other things, you're not going to be able to organise a wedding. If you're not really big into lists, you're not going to be able to organise a wedding because it's all lists. Lists of sub-lists of lists of lists. You know, you say a book a wedding car, it's like research wedding car. Narrow that down to the ones that you like the look of, then narrow it down to the ones that are actually available potentially on the date that you need them, and then find out if their prices match your budget. So you have to be organised, and I think that's why a lot of couples struggle, because not everyone is an organiser, and that's okay. We're individuals. It would be boring if we were all the same. And you know, I have people in my family that could not organise, you know what, in a, you know where, but that's why they come to me and say, do you think we should do this? And like, yep, or you could do this, or, you know, I give them the options. I help them think things through, which is what I do with my couples. We help each other. I help them make the decisions they want to make by giving them options, and sometimes even challenging the decision that they've been told to make, shall we say? Because sometimes that you do have other people say, well, you should do this with your wedding. It's like, hang on, what do the couple actually want? And then all the other people that give them the advice. And if we're there saying, actually, I think that probably wouldn't work for you as a couple, then we can kind of take that away. So yeah, getting organised, understanding what your priorities are. And you don't necessarily know when you're starting out as a couple what your budget should be, because you don't know what everything costs when you're starting out. And it can be a major surprise. There are so many options for so many budgets now, and that's okay. Yeah. So again, it's a lot of research. You've got to be prepared to do research. So the fact of being organised again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you say that, because I know that there are some planners out there that have kind of got their set suppliers. These are the suppliers I always use. And there are advantages and disadvantages to both methods, because if you are working with, if you've like curated a set of vendors that always work together, work well together, then you know that your day is going to go off without a hitch. And, you know, it's going to be beautiful and it's going to be, you know, something to behold. However, by doing that, you are then shoehorning yourself into a specific budget, because all of those vendors are going to have a specific price. And if your couple can't afford that, then they're going to have to go elsewhere. If you aren't somebody who is actually working more from the point of the couple's perspective and what's best for them, rather than working from the point of view of, I've got all these vendors that I work with, and we're going to make sure that these people are used in every wedding that we do. So I spoke to Bernadette Chapman on a podcast a little while ago. I will link her episode in the show notes for you guys. We were talking about this topic, and I said how I liked the fact that, you know, the planners have that option of sort of getting to know several different vendors in each area and being able to pull on different budgets for different brides. So you can still have that core of vendors that you use that fit those prices, but also have that flexibility to go outside that list and say, well, actually, I don't have a connection that works quite right for you, but I'll go out and research it. And the thing with using a planner is, you know what you're looking for. You know the red flags to look out for. So even when you're researching somebody that you haven't necessarily worked with before, you know exactly what to look for to know that they're going to provide the type of service that you want for your couple. Whereas couples go into it completely blind, no idea what a red flag is when it comes to looking at a vendor, and, you know, can get blindsided by the joy and the excitement and, you know, sign on the dotted line before even thinking about it, because they just want what they want, and then find out that what they wanted isn't what they're going to get.
And there are some vendors out there who are amazing salespeople, but they can't hold up the actual doing end of the bit, and that's the bit that counts. And we get, because of the networks that we're both involved in, we get to know about the rogue ones really quickly. They then get around pretty damn quick, because they give us all a bad reputation. We're not all like that at all. We're not all out to get as much money out of people as possible. And the majority of us, although negotiating is a toughie, we understand that people come to us with expectations. And sometimes some vendors are very reluctant to say, you and I are not going to be a match, because the market is tough. There's a lot of people, a lot of us out there. There's a lot of choice for couples, which is fantastic. But again, that's where people like planners come in, because we do see the whole of the market. You know, I don't just network with people that are on my doorstep. So I haven't just got 5 local to Luton photographers on my books. I have photographers all over the country. Pretty much vast majority of the world is covered by people that through my networks that I know, that I can trust their opinion if they say, oh, I can offer you these 3 photographers in, say, Mauritius. I've got someone based out in Mauritius at the moment. They're not on my books or anything. It's not like I get any kickbacks from their recommendations, and neither would they. They wouldn't do it for that. They would do it because they also love weddings, and they want people to go out there and have their weddings there, and they want people to, after their wedding, come back and say, go to Mauritius for your wedding. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good network. It's a good network, and I love it when it works, and it's so special when it works. So yeah, love that. Organization, key point. If you are not an organized person, then don't look at weddings. What I love about Vicki is that most of the time creative people are not organized people. We're scatterbrained, you know, we like focus is like a goldfish, and we're just like all over the place because we've just got so much creativity. Well, Vicki has that creativity, but then she has this other side that can come in and just take charge and go, nope, we're making a list. And I love that.
Excuse me. My own creative project, I have many work in progresses. So, you know, on the creative side, yeah, I don't necessarily get things done in a timely fashion when it comes to creating things. But for everything else, yeah, no, I'm the kind of person that's been an organizer since I was little. I organized my books as a child into a library, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah.
The same thing.
That's why we get along.
I unpacked a box the other day. I've probably got it on this shelf actually somewhere in front of me. A book. It was a Victoria Plum book. I had a couple of those. I loved Victoria Plum books. And inside is a little piece of paper that is sellotaped on the edges, and inside is a little slip that says, you know, was taken out on this date, just like a library.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yep, I'm the same. Love that. Oh my goodness, telling you all of our secrets now, guys, telling you all of our secrets. So what I wanted to talk about now was 3 things that you wish you had known before you set up your business, because I think a lot of people, there's 2 types of people that go into business. The people that want to have a business and are very business minded, and then they find something to do a business on. So somebody who is like, okay, I want to run my own business. What am I good at? I'm good at photography. I'm going to be a photographer. And they start and they do the business side, and then, you know, the creative part comes later. They might do some courses and things like that as they're going along, because they've already got a natural aptitude for it. And then there are the people that are absolutely astounding at being creative and have absolutely no business acumen whatsoever, have no idea what an accounting system is, don't understand that you've got to pay taxes on stuff that you like, just have no idea. So there's the 2 sides there that many people fall into. And so when you start a business, you can think, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this and it's going to be fantastic, and then things start sort of unraveling. And I think that's a lot to do with why a lot of businesses fail in their first 5 years, is that, you know, people don't understand everything that is needed or required to get them started and off the ground. So what are the 3 things that, as you were sort of starting out on your own, having sort of jumped ship and taken that leap, what are the 3 things that you go, God, I wish I'd have known that earlier, or I wish I'd known that before I started?
Well, the main thing is you don't know what you don't know. I went into it, I went in eyes wide open. I knew about budgeting. I knew I'd need some sort of seed fund to get me started. What I didn't realise is that in spite of doing lots of years of networking and having huge pools of resources for people with business sides, can handle all the business side of things, I didn't realise what I didn't know until I started having to do it and figuring it out. I did a bit of marketing, but it wasn't 100% of my time in my old job. All of a sudden, I had to become a professional marketeer in inverted commas. I had to become my own finance officer. So I didn't have someone breathing down my neck saying, you need to register and you need to do this. Did not know. I'd never had to do a self-assessment in my entire life. Didn't know where to start with that. The second thing is, not everyone that you meet that offers you advice has your best interests at heart. And that's really sad, but unfortunately it seems to be true, especially in my early days of networking. It's like you have to find the networks that are right for you. And I think in my early days, I basically went everywhere, listened to everyone, tried to do everything they all told me to do, in spite of the fact that some of it conflicted. And instead of taking a step back and trying to work some of these things out for myself, I started listening to other people. So that's the third one. Don't lose your inner voice, your inner drive, your inner why, because only you know the reason why you set up that business. And your business might change over time, and it probably will. But you have to know why you started out in the first place. You have to bear that in mind. So when people start doubting your vision or saying, I think you'd be better doing this, is what I got a lot. Oh, you'd be really good at doing that. It's like, well, that's not part of my vision. But, oh, does that mean that they might offer me a job doing that? Or might I get work out of them if I try and do that? Even though it's not actually what I'm trying to get into. It's not where my passion is. You can lose a lot of yourself in other people's advice. It's very easy to get distracted and pulled in the wrong direction. So yeah, that's I think the big one is keep your vision clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Take advice with a huge pinch of salt.
Huge pinch of salt. Yeah, that is just something that I hadn't even really sort of thought of. But yeah, not everybody. Like, I listen to a lot of online business people, and of course they're out there, they're trying to sell their products, so of course they're going to say, you know, XYZ is a good idea, but doesn't mean that it is for me. You know, they've got their niche, they've got their ICA, their ideal client avatar in their head when they're talking. That might not be you. Just because they say that you should be doing that doesn't necessarily mean that you should. But again, to play devil's advocate, doesn't mean you should ignore it. I was on a networking meeting this morning where I was talking about memberships, and, you know, one of the ladies turned around and said, I've got no plans to set up a membership at all, but I listened to what you said, and there are things that I can take from that and adapt in my business to help me. So she didn't just shut off at the advice because it wasn't part of her vision. She listened and then was like, oh, maybe I could tweak that. Maybe I could change that. So I think what you say is right. Take it with a pinch of salt and be able to step back. It is so easy, like brides and grooms, when they're getting all excited about their wedding day and they go, oh, I'm going to have a book this, book that, book the other. And then they end up with something they weren't expecting. You can do that in your business. You're so excited to get started that you listen to all the advice and you start doing it. And then at the end of it, you're not left with the business that you wanted to set up. So,
and you can end up saying yes to things that you really regret saying yes to.
Yeah.
And you know you've said yes in error, and you're going to put all of your best effort into it, but it's not you. It's not what you want to do. And the thing with that is, if you get known for that thing, suddenly you can end up being pulled further and further away from your vision, and that's where you got this passion for it, I think.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so thank you for those tips. I hope they help, guys, because I think, you know, they were actually some little golden nuggets for you there. So if there is people out there listening to today's podcast going, do you know what, I really fancy being a planner. I'm really organized, you know, I love making lists. I've got a fantastic network of people. I think, you know, I'm personable. I can, you know, talk the hind legs off a donkey and, you know, be in there, and I'm really excited to get started. What would your number one tip for them be?
I do get inquiries from wannabe wedding planners, and I think it's fantastic. I think there are training things that you can do out there. Bernadette runs one of them, but there are options out there, and they are great for giving you a grounding in what you need to know. But in on paper, the actual physical effort of becoming a wedding planner, I think you really need to experience being at a wedding, being surrounded by guests who are demanding where the toilets are. So that's the number one thing you get asked if you're standing around for a wedding for any length of time. You know, get in with other planners and see if you can shadow them for a bit. You know, get some practical on the ground experience and find out if you really do actually enjoy being around those guests. around those people. And don't be afraid of the bridezilla. Bridezillas, yes, they exist, but they're actually much, much rarer than people are led to believe. But again, you'll find out pretty quickly if you can cope with those sorts of temperaments by being around them. So by stepping up and assisting other planners, you might get the experience that will tell you whether you should invest more time and effort to really starting your own wedding planning business. And it's a tough market, there's no two ways about it.
That is an excellent tip, and I am a huge advocate of training. I actually trained as a wedding planner with the Wedding Academy, so I will link that in the show notes for you guys. Kylie Carlson has some fantastic courses on styling, on planning, even floral arrangement. I think there's one on, so she has a lot of good stuff there, and I will link that in the show notes, because as the owner of the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors, a huge advocate of training, because you can have your acumen for something, you can have the eye for photography, but learning the skills so that you know what to do in different situations is something that you can't just know off the top of your head without going through it. And the last thing you want to do is go through it on somebody's wedding day and risk ruining it. So training, shadowing, and don't expect to get paid for it. A lot of people are working as solo entrepreneurs. They do their budgets, they are tight, they've got their profit margins, and they probably aren't going to have money to pay you to work with them on a wedding day. So if you want to get into it, don't be afraid of rolling up your sleeves and saying, I'm here, what can I do? You are going to get so much further if you do that than if you just go in and say, I want to be a wedding planner. Because at the end of the day, another wedding planner in the mix is somebody else that is going to be competition for that person you're asking to get paid for helping them out with. It's not the way to go about it. So it is a good community in the wedding industry. I am all for supporting new people coming into the industry that want to do it the right way. And I know that there are a lot of vendors out there that would support that, because at the end of the day, it all ebbs and flows, doesn't it? You get people that retire out of the industry, you get new people that come in, you get people that leave the industry and new people that come in. So there is always going to be an ebb and flow. We know that there are going to be new people that want to come into the industry. And for those of us that don't look at it as competition, are much more willing to sort of give advice and share knowledge with people that are really there for the heart of it. So if you come in and you say, look, I really want to do it, I'm happy to do anything, I'd love to shadow you, I'd love to help out on a wedding day, you're going to get much more positive reaction than saying, hey, have you got any jobs available where I can learn from you, take all of your knowledge and then set up my own business.
Yeah, but we also have our own niches, so you might get into it with a vision of who you want to work with. I certainly am a huge advocate of collaboration over competition, especially at the moment, because we are there to support each other. If one of us gets pinged by track and trace, then that's it. We have to potentially hand over 2 or 3 bookings, and how do our customers trust us if we have to do that? Well, because we are part of a pool of other planners who are also working in similar ethical ways as we do, and we know, like, and trust them, and that's the thing. So yeah, if you go into it thinking I'm going to compete with all the big boys straight away, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's also not as glamorous as people sometimes think it's going to be. I have to say, I've done my fair share of crawling around in the mud trying to find dropped wedding certificates. Don't need to do that anymore. Now that you don't get the certificate on the day. Yeah, the number of people that think that it's all swanning around telling other people what to do. No, a huge part of it is covering things like a bridesmaid has popped a seam on her dress and she now needs rescuing. Or somebody's lost their tie, someone needs to dash back to that part of their room in the hotel, or somebody's car's broken down, can someone go and collect them? It's dealing with so many different things that people just, it's not easy to learn in the classroom, but you just don't think that it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
You are not going to be Jennifer Lopez in The Wedding Planner, guys. It's you could try.
The bum bag with the toolkit, yeah.
I do actually, yeah. Her toolkit was amazing. I actually love that film, and it definitely gives you a hint of what it's like. You remember the scene where she's like running between the pillars in the church because the father of the bride has gone missing, or I think it was the father of the bride's gone missing. You know, that happens, and it is all of that. A wedding planner is all about looking like a beautiful swan. Meanwhile, underneath is paddling, looking like a beautiful swan, but acting like a duck. Because actually swans glide, they don't actually do the flapping, I found out. So it's actually more like a duck, where it looks just gliding along the surface and underneath paddling furiously to make sure everything is working okay on the day. So Vicki, you are actually a member of the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors. I love having you as part of the membership. Can you tell the listeners why it is that you decided to join the society?
Well, when it was introduced to me, I thought, what a bloody good idea, if I'm allowed to say it that way. Because you sign up to the Code of Ethics. So people that are researching and looking on the society know that the people, the suppliers that are on there that are listed, are all going to be following those ethics. And that's a huge thing for me, because that's one of my core values as a person, as a human, and as a business. If you can't be ethical, don't go into business, is my understanding of it. So that was a huge draw to me. I love wedding networks. They all have something to offer, but the society is such a friendly one, and because it has that strong ethical background as well, it really did appeal to me straight away. So
I love that.
Signed up pretty damn quick.
I love that. We are a friendly bunch. And it is all about that code. The core values of the society are passion, heart, and integrity. And integrity may be said last, but it's because it's pointed at the end there with a full stop, punctuation, integrity. And that is what the code of conduct is all about, is creating that standard for suppliers to say, you know, this is how I run my business, and you can trust me. And it's very hard for couples when they are researching vendors to know who they can trust. And there are so many stories out there of vendors. Like, I remember just the early part of COVID, there was something all over the internet about a guy that was saying that he was going to film your wedding for like almost next to nothing. It was a crazy price, and he was some film photographer who did, you know, big movies, but, you know, because of COVID, he wasn't doing the big movies. So now he was going to shoot weddings, and you would get a cinematic, and it was crazy. And one thing I will say is some of the bride groups are awesome in the fact that they all just banded together and got this guy kind of taken down because they could see it. But unfortunately, not everybody is so obvious, and you know, they are quieter, and they are just, you know, on a one-to-one basis talking to you and mis-selling you, and that is something that I absolutely can't abide. So yeah, the society definitely stands up against that. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Vicki. It has been a fantastic chat. Where can people find you if they are interested to connect with you?
Well, my website is yourweddingfriend.co.uk. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, Your Wedding Friend and Your Wedding Friend UK. And I'm pretty much everywhere, apart from TikTok at the moment. I haven't quite given into TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
I think as a woman over 40, I'm sort of a bit beyond TikTok possibly, but that's just me.
Whatever you're comfortable with, love. I know there are definitely people on there that are older than that, but I'm in the same camp as you. I will do a reel, but I've got no interest in starting a channel that is solely that kind of thing. It would be too much for me. Right, I will link all of Vicki's details in the show notes, so you can head over and find out more about her and check her website out. Thank you so much for listening, guys. If you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, please hit subscribe where you are listening. If you are on the website, then just below the podcast player is a box where you can sign up to get notifications each week of the new episode that is dropping. And until next week, bye for now.
Don't forget the early bird bonuses for the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors end tonight at midnight. So head over to spwv.co.uk, get all the information there, and I hope to see you inside the membership soon. Bye for now.